Imagine a world where entire nations vanish, not because of war or disasters, but simply because people stop having children. Elon Musk's recent tweet declared that Singapore is going extinct, and the numbers don't lie. Singapore's fertility rate has dropped to a shocking 0.97, far below the 2.1 needed to sustain a population. But it's not alone. South Korea, Japan, and even economic powerhouses like China are facing similar crises, with plummeting birth rates and aging populations threatening their very survival. So, what's behind this global baby bust? Rising living costs, shifting cultural norms, and career pressures are just the tip of the iceberg. Governments are throwing cash at the problem, but is it enough? In this video, we'll uncover the stark reality of the fertility crisis, explore the countries most at risk, and ask the big question: could humanity itself be heading for a population crash? Let's start with Singapore, a thriving global hub known for its booming economy and modern infrastructure. Yet, beneath its shiny skyscrapers and bustling streets lies a troubling reality. Singapore's fertility rate has plummeted to just 0.97, one of the lowest in the world. This means the average woman in Singapore is expected to have less than one child in her lifetime, far below the 2.1 needed to sustain a population. The government has long been aware of the issue and has tried almost everything to reverse the trend. They've offered generous financial incentives, including cash bonuses for new parents. Policies like extended parental leave and subsidized childcare were introduced to ease the burden of raising children. But despite these efforts, the fertility rate continues to decline. For many Singaporeans, having children feels increasingly out of reach. The cost of living crisis is a significant factor. Singapore is consistently ranked as one of the most expensive cities in the world. From skyrocketing housing prices to the high cost of education, raising a child can seem more like a luxury than a life milestone. On top of that, balancing work and family is another major challenge. Singapore's fast-paced, high-pressure work culture leaves little time for family planning. Many young couples feel overwhelmed by the idea of juggling demanding careers with the responsibilities of parenting. There's also a cultural shift at play. Many young people are prioritizing their careers, travel, and personal freedom over starting a family. This isn't unique to Singapore. It's a trend we're seeing globally, but it's hitting hard in nations with already low birth rates. The result? A rapidly aging population and fewer young people to drive the economy forward. Schools are closing, entire neighborhoods are growing quieter, and the long-term future of the city-state hangs in the balance. Singapore's baby crisis is a warning sign, not just for itself but for the rest of the world. Can this bustling city-state find a way to reverse the trend? Or is it a glimpse of what's to come for other nations? Singapore's struggle with low fertility rates is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Around the world, countries are grappling with a startling demographic shift. Birth rates are dropping, populations are aging, and some nations are at risk of disappearing altogether. This isn't just a regional problem, it's a global phenomenon with far-reaching consequences. Take South Korea. It holds the dubious title of having the world's lowest fertility rate, which fell to 0.72 in 2023. If this trend continues, experts predict South Korea's population could shrink by half within 50 years. The headlines were so alarming that some even suggested it could be the first country to vanish by the year 2100. Japan, another economic powerhouse, faces a similar challenge. Once the world's 11th most populous country, its population is expected to halve by the end of the century. In a symbolic twist, Japan now sells more adult diapers than baby diapers, reflecting its rapidly aging population. China, which once dominated global population statistics, is also feeling the effects. After decades of its infamous one-child policy, birth rates have fallen sharply. Despite relaxing the rules in recent years, Beijing is now scrambling to reverse the trend and manage the fallout of a shrinking, aging society. This crisis isn't confined to Asia. Brazil, for example, saw its slowest population growth on record in 2023. Across Europe, Countries like Italy and Spain are also grappling with declining birth rates and shrinking workforces. Globally, the numbers are sobering. In 1950, the average woman had 5 children. Today, that number is just over 2, and in many developed nations, it's far lower. For a population to remain stable, the fertility rate must be 2.1, but in dozens of countries, it's fallen below 1. This global fertility crisis poses enormous economic and societal risks. Fewer workers means slower economic growth, strained healthcare systems, and collapsing pension funds. While the causes vary, from rising costs of living to shifting cultural norms, the result is the same. Humanity is facing a population slowdown on a scale we've never seen before. Why are birth rates plummeting across the globe? The reasons are complex and interconnected, reflecting profound changes in how people live, work, and think about family. One of the most significant factors is rising urbanization. More people than ever are living in cities, where space is limited, housing costs are sky-high, and the financial pressure to maintain a certain standard of living is relentless. For many young couples, the idea of adding a child to this already challenging equation feels overwhelming. Closely tied to urbanization is the high cost of living. Raising a child in today's world comes with enormous expenses, from housing and healthcare to education and childcare. In countries like Singapore, South Korea, and Japan, these costs can deter even the most family-oriented individuals from taking the leap into parenthood. There's also been a noticeable shift in cultural norms and priorities. In the past, starting a family was considered a natural milestone in life. Today, many young people are delaying or opting out of parenthood altogether. Career ambitions, personal freedom, and the desire to travel or pursue hobbies are taking precedence. For some, the trade-offs required to have children no longer feel worthwhile. Women's empowerment has also played a transformative role. With greater access to education and career opportunities, women are no longer confined to traditional roles. This freedom has allowed many to decide if and when they want to have children. Another major factor is financial insecurity. Many young adults, particularly in developed nations, are struggling with unstable jobs, rising debt, and stagnant wages. For them, having children seems like a financial risk they can't afford to take. These trends are compounded by aging populations. As societies grow older, younger generations face mounting responsibilities to care for elderly family members, adding another layer of stress and economic burden. The result? A global fertility crisis fueled by economic, cultural, and societal changes. Addressing this challenge isn't just about encouraging people to have children, it's about reshaping the world to make parenting feel possible again. The global fertility crisis isn't just a demographic problem, it's an economic ticking time bomb. As birth rates fall and populations age, the ripple effects on economies worldwide are staggering. One of the most immediate impacts is on the workforce. Fewer children being born today means fewer workers in the decades to come. This creates a shrinking labor pool, which leads to slower economic growth and fewer innovations. For economies built on growth and productivity, this spells trouble. Industries may struggle to find enough skilled workers, while businesses could face declining consumer demand as populations dwindle. Then there's the issue of tax revenue. A smaller working-age population means fewer taxpayers to fund essential public services, from healthcare to infrastructure. Governments heavily rely on these taxes to maintain their economies, but with fewer contributors, deficits are likely to soar. This creates a dangerous cycle where aging populations require more services, but there's less money to provide them. Healthcare systems are already feeling the strain of an aging population. As the percentage of elderly people rises, the demand for healthcare services skyrockets. Countries like Japan and South Korea are already witnessing this, with hospitals and caregivers struggling to keep up. The cost of elderly care is astronomical, and without a younger generation to balance the scales, the burden becomes unsustainable. Pension systems are another critical concern. Many nations operate on a pay-as-you-go model, where current workers fund the pensions of retirees. But with fewer workers and more retirees, these systems are on the verge of collapse. Without reform, many countries could face pension crises that leave millions of elderly citizens without financial support. Even consumer markets are affected. An aging population means a shift in spending patterns. Less spending on goods like housing, technology, and entertainment, and more on healthcare and retirement services. This shift could lead to long-term stagnation in industries that rely on younger consumers. The economic fallout of falling fertility rates is clear: fewer workers, fewer consumers, and increasing pressure on public services. If governments don't act now, the cost of inaction could reshape the global economy as we know it. The global fertility crisis is a daunting challenge, but it's not insurmountable. To reverse declining birth rates, governments and societies must take bold and creative actions that go beyond financial incentives. The key isn't just encouraging people to have children, it's creating an environment where they feel they can. First, addressing the high cost of living is crucial. Affordable housing, education, and childcare are essential for young families to thrive. For example, Scandinavian countries like Sweden and Norway have achieved higher fertility rates by offering comprehensive support, such as subsidized childcare and free education, alongside flexible parental leave policies. Work-life balance is another major factor. Overworked parents are less likely to consider having more children. Flexible working hours, remote work opportunities, and shorter work weeks can make balancing careers and family life far more manageable. Companies that invest in family-friendly workplace policies often see happier, more productive employees. Societal attitudes toward parenting must also shift. Governments should also invest in community-building efforts. Creating family-friendly cities with parks, playgrounds, and accessible services can make a significant difference. People are more likely to start families in places where they feel safe, supported, and connected. Finally, addressing financial insecurity is vital. Stable jobs, fair wages, and economic opportunities give young people the confidence to plan for the future. The solution to the fertility crisis lies not in quick fixes, but in a holistic approach that prioritizes the well-being of families. What do you think? Should governments do more to address this crisis? Or is this simply the new reality of modern life? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into global issues. Together, let's spark meaningful change.